Today we need to discuss liars and cooks. Okay. Today we need to discuss liars and cooks. Damn it, I did it again. Today we need to discuss liars and crooks and con men and perverts. But enough about all the people in Congress. There's some other things we need to talk about as well. Stay tuned, everybody. For the best meat you have ever eaten in your life, go to samsbutchershop.com. Enter the coupon code TTT when you check out for a 10% discount. And a good Monday to you all, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I am trailertrashtim. Welcome to the channel. I am so glad that you are here. I have got a lot of things to crack on today, so let's get going. And I've got to start with this. Cat. This is huge. I don't know if you're hearing it on in your preferred news outlets, but this is from the Peach State of Georgia. And the headline is in a website called theleadingreport.com, and it reads thusly: 2020 Georgia fraud exposed. What are we talking about here? Well, let's name the players first of all. The governor of Georgia is a Republican by the name of Brian Kemp. Not so much a Trump fan, which is okay. And then the Secretary of State of the state of Georgia is a man by the name of Brad Raffensperger. Well, the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, formally notified Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger of recording and publishing factually false results concerning the 2020 presidential election, to include 17,852 invalid votes recorded from Fulton County, Georgia alone. Fulton County is Atlanta. 17,852 invalid votes were more than 4,000 votes more than necessary for Donald Trump to have won the state of Georgia in 2020. So there you go. Now, what's important to understand here is that since Trump has been saying since election night of 2020 that this thing was stolen, basically, that it was all, it was just, the whole thing was invalid. This was so corrupt as we know. If you're paying attention, you know that. But as you should know, if you don't know already, Brian Kemp has really suffered the ire of Donald Trump, and rightly so. And he is no ally of Donald Trump. But the governor of Georgia finally did his job, it seems to me, and he notified the Secretary of State, also certainly no fan of Donald Trump, that we have discovered almost 18,000 invalid votes in Fulton County alone. These the recording and publishing, he is accusing Raffensperger of recording, and these guys are allies. He's accusing him of recording and publishing factually false results concerning the 2020 election. This is huge. This is huge. And this is symptomatic of what happened in election night of 2020 across the United States. It happened in Pennsylvania. It happened in Wisconsin. It happened in Arizona. It happened in Virginia. It happened in North Carolina. It happened in state after state after state, Michigan. I remember that vividly. I'm a election hound, and I remember watching that thing that night, and if you were up that night watching returns, you'll remember this as well. Trump had this thing well in hand. Going into the evening, before midnight, Trump had this election won, and it was right there for all of us to see. And all of a sudden, people quit counting votes. How many of you remember that? They say, well, we got to stop for the night. I've never seen that before. They just stopped counting votes. And we all just said, well, okay, Trump's obviously won this thing. And like most of you probably, I went to bed. And when we got up the next morning, well, lo and behold, la-dee-freaking-da. All of a sudden, Biden's got more Trumps than, Biden has more vote than Trump in places like Georgia and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. How did this happen? I mean, mathematically, how was it possible that he could overcome Trump with all the deficits he was running in the tallies? Well, now we find out, almost in 2024, into another election year, on the verge of a new year, now all of a sudden, Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, tells Raffensperger, oh, by the way, we've got almost 18,000 illegal votes that were cast in the city of Atlanta or Fulton County alone. And so now they're going to be having meetings about it in the state of Georgia. I'm going to tell you the bottom line. Donald Trump won that election. I've known it in my gut. Many of you have known it in your gut as well. We know that Trump got railroaded that night. That thing was stolen. Who do you blame for it? Do you blame the CIA? Do you blame the FBI? Do you just blame the deep state? Or all of the above? Or these hacks like Brad Raffensperger? I've seen so much evidence. If you saw the movie 2,000 Mules, if you saw the various videos from places like Fulton County where they just quit counting votes, that election was stolen. And what do you? I've often wondered, what do you do if you can prove the election was stolen? What do you do then? What do you do then? Do you toss Biden out of the office? I mean, hell, its term's almost over. This is an outrage. It is an absolute outrage. And finally, on the cusp of a new year and another election cycle, all of a sudden, the governor of Georgia finally gets his shit together, and says, oh, by the way, Brad, we had some irregularities in Fulton County. Well, no kidding. Thanks for finally doing your job and joining the party, Governor Kemp. It's about time you clocked in. This is just in the state of Georgia. What about all the other aforementioned states? It's just mind-boggling. It's just so much corruption. This thing was just gerrymandered, manipulated. The plug was pulled, and somebody behind the scenes at the motherboard, as far as I'm concerned, was manipulating the controls and adding in votes. You know, it's so disheartening when you realize your vote really doesn't count, that they don't even count these things one by one. I mean, it's like they use like algorithms to count votes anymore. It's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. I'm telling you, we need to have an election day, and we need to require those who are going to vote on election day. We need to get rid of this mail-in ballots. Just get rid of it altogether. You know at least 2 years ahead of time when election day is. You know it. So you can adjust your calendar thusly. I know that on November 5th or whatever it is, Tuesday, November 5th, 6th, or whatever, I've got to adjust my calendar so that I can be there in person to cast my vote and have my photo ID ready. That is not too much to ask. You know, citizenship should require something other than just your taxes. You know, they'll get that. But I know at least 2 years out, okay, I got to have my calendar squared away so I can show up with my ID in hand and cast my vote. That is not too much to ask. We have got to get a handle on this voter fraud and this corruption, or it's hopeless. Maybe this is a step in the right direction. One can hope. Let me move on. There's a lot of deviants and perverts in the news here lately, and I'm going to cover more than one story with regard to them. And here's one for you. This is on the Daily Wire. The headline reads, School Board Member... God help us. Literally, God help us. School Board member sworn in on stack of gay porn instead of the Bible. A school board member in Virginia, what the hell is going on with Virginia, took his oath of office with his hand not on a Bible, but on a stack of books containing graphic depictions of gay sex. Carl Frisch, who will become chairman of the Fairfax County School Board. By the way, Fairfax is a suburb. It's ostensibly Washington, D.C. It's the Beltway, right outside the Beltway, okay? Which explains a lot. Carl Frisch swapped the Bible for books including Lawn Boy, Gender Queer, and Flamer. His male partner held the books as he placed his left hand on him and his right hand in the air. He was sworn in on a stack of LGBTQ-themed books most frequently banned by other school systems, Frisch's campaign said on his website. And it goes on and on. It's too graphic for me to relay here. I'm going to tell you something, folks. I was born in another time, in another place. This is so obscene. It is so deviant. It is so gratuitous that I can't or I won't even share the details of this on my channel. It's unfreaking believable. Somebody said these books that are referenced here are in stock and available in the government school library. I'm not going to go into detail about this material, but this is what I wanted to get to about this. He said, this guy Frisch said, get this, how ass backwards is this? Quote, the religious nuts come out of the woodwork, he said. Fairfax has a history of being an epicenter for far-right religious fanaticism. By the way, unquote, every member of the Fairfax County School Board is a Democrat. A previous school board chair, Rachna Sizemore Heiser, took the oath of office on a copy of radical anti-American historian Howard Zinn's book, quote, A People's History of the United States, unquote. Isn't it interesting that people like this guy, what was his name here? This kook Frisch, Carl Frisch. Carl Frisch takes his oath of office with his left hand on a stack of gay porn, and he's calling other people right-wing nut jobs and lunatics and extremists. Huh? You're calling other people an extremist and a nut job? You're standing there taking your oath of office with your boyfriend in tow and your hand on a stack of gay porn, and you're calling somebody else an extremist? You're calling somebody else a nut job? Are you kidding me, Carl Frisch? Buddy, you're the nut job. You're the extremist. You're the deviant. You're the pervert. You need a checkup from the neck up, cowboy. This is in Fairfax County, Fairfax, Virginia, right outside the Beltway. Words elude me at a time like this. I have told you before, and I'll say it loud and long, I am a traditionalist. I believe in marriage. I believe men are meant to marry women if they are going to get married. I do not believe in gay marriage. And just a few short years ago, Democrats such as Biden and Obama said the same thing. Ain't that interesting? I believe marriage is between a man and a woman, period, and I make no apology for that, ladies and gentlemen. And these perverts like Carl Frisch stand there with his man in tow, with his hand on a stack of gay porn. Are you freaking kidding me, man? No, I have no tolerance for people like this, none whatsoever. You know why? Because it's never enough. You give them an inch and they want a mile. You can't draw a line in the sand with these people because they will never stop. Never. All right, let me move on to something else because that's going to get my Irish up, as we used to say. This is from a website called Threadreader app and a guy by the name of Jeremy Carl. This has to do with another Confederate memorial, this one in Arlington Cemetery, that is slated for removal. Within the next several days, barring intervention from Congress, the Biden regime, in violation of the law, will remove the Confederate Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery, commissioned to celebrate the reconciliation of the North and the South. The memorial is considered the masterwork of the renowned Jewish-American sculptor Sir Moses Ezekiel, a former Confederate soldier who was described by his biographer as adamantly opposed to slavery, who is buried at its base. Ezekiel, knighted by the King of Italy, was so dedicated to North-South reconciliation that he would later host commanding Union General Ulysses S. Grant at his studio. Yet, in the wake of the George Floyd moral panic, this memorial was scheduled for removal, though its removal is being done in violation of several federal laws and the clear text of the legislation, which excludes graves. As former Democrat, Senator and Navy Secretary Jim Webb said, "What was it that Union Army veteran McKinley understood about the Confederate soldiers who opposed him on the battlefield that eludes today's monument smashers and ad hominem destroyers of historical reputations?" And the story just goes on and on and on. But here we have a Confederate a monument that was dedicated to the reconciliation of the North and South, but it's scheduled for removal. Just like they removed a statue of President Thomas Jefferson in New York. You remember that? It's cancel culture striking yet again. This is a monument celebrating the reconciliation of the North and South. I'm a Southern boy, right? I got friends on the other side of the Mason-Dixon line. I think a monument that celebrates the reconciliation post-war of the North and South is probably a good thing for America. Do you think? But no, we got to remove it. Why? Because of cancel culture. Is nothing sacred anymore? Maybe gay porn. God, what a day we live in. All right, let me move on. I got to get to this. This is Georgia voter fraud, the school board member, the Confederate Memorial. Listen at this. This is one that really ticks me off. I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's too lengthy, but this appeared in USA Today. There is a potential deal going on in Congress between Congress and Joe Biden. Now, I guess generally speaking, the Republicans in Congress want Biden to act on the issue of border security. They want Biden to act. And basically what's happening is Biden is saying, okay, I'll do something about border security, but in exchange for that, I want you to give me more money for Ukraine. That's exactly what it's all about. This is, again, in USA Today by Riley Beggin. This was published on December the 14th of this year. The byline reads, "Will Congress approve Ukraine aid before time runs out? First, they have to reach a deal on the border." And it just goes on in the story to detail how the Republicans are basically saying, okay, look, we need you to do something, Biden, about the border. And Biden is saying, okay, I'll do something about the border if you'll give me money for Ukraine. This is patently outrageous. Biden needs to do his job with regard to the border, but instead he's holding the American people hostage, saying, okay, all right, I'll do something about the border, but only if you give me money for Ukraine. God, this just pisses me off like I can't tell you. Your job, Biden, is to protect the American people, which means doing something about the porous border, but instead you're holding a gun to our head and saying, okay, I'll do my job, but only if you'll give me money for Ukraine. In other words, he's going to shake us all down for money for his puppet, Zelensky, and if we'll only give him the money for Zelensky, then and only then will he do something about the American border. Is this not effing outrageous? Congress should say, no, you just do your job. You don't worry about Ukraine. We're going to deal with the border here, and then we'll talk about the Ukraine issue. But since there are more and more politicians, thank God, that are now hesitant to give more money to Ukraine, Biden knows that, and that's why he's having to hold everybody hostage about it and saying, I'll do something about the border, but first you got to say you'll give me X number of billions or millions or whatever for Ukraine. God, this is outrageous. Were I in Congress and I had the microphone, I would tell him, no, you forget Ukraine. Just do your job about the border. Period. No deal. You're not going to shake us down for more money for Zelensky. Just do your job and protect the border. Period. That's how it ought to go. Now, what's going to happen? Don't be surprised if they cave and say, all right, if you'll do what we want you to do about the border, which is just a piddling, almost not worth mentioning, if you'll just do that, we'll give you another few $1 billion for Zelensky. That's what's probably going to happen, but it shouldn't happen. But, hey, there we go. All right, I'm going to close with this story. This is a local story, which I love. This was in the local, this happened here in Birmingham, close by, in Birmingham, Alabama. A woman walked into a jewelry store about a week ago. I've been meaning to cover this for about a week. The owner of an Alabama jewelry store shot a woman trying to rob his business. He said he hated for it to happen, but he'd do it all again. I did what I had to do to protect my store and my employees, said Jeff Dennis, owner of Jeff Dennis Jewelers. I had no idea what she was capable of. The ordeal began just before 5 p.m. Wednesday at the store. Dennis said the woman, y'all listen to this story. Dennis said the woman walked in through the front door wearing a face covering that looked like a COVID mask and a coat and carrying a purse. Another reason why you shouldn't be wearing masks, because something bad might happen to you. I'm always a little bit alert, Dennis said. Even though we're just past COVID, there's still a lot of people wearing masks, unquote. The first thing she did was bend down and put a block in the door so that it would stay open. I knew then what was happening, Dennis said, so I drew my weapon, unquote. The robber said, quote, "Happy holidays. I don't want to hurt y'all, but I am," unquote. She then immediately started spraying bear spray at the employees. Bear spray is a powerful aerosol spray meant to be used to ward off grizzlies and black bears. Dennis said, quote, "I stepped around the corner and fired and hit her pretty good. I hit her in the shoulder. It was a significant injury. I didn't have any choice." No, you didn't. Once she started spraying the bear spray because I didn't know what was going to come next. I was in fight or flight mode, and I was trying to get the store secured because I didn't know if she had other people with her, he said, unquote. The woman screamed, "Stop! Stop! I don't want to die! Please stop!" The woman dropped her purse and fled. Dennis continued, in her purse were other things that she was going to use as part of the robbery. She did have weapons. Dennis had hit the alarm button and secured the store. He said, "I had to make sure the perimeter was safe. We were absolutely sick because we were gasping and couldn't breathe, and I had to get everybody outside." And the story goes on and on. Mr. Dennis, I hope you see my video, and I just want you to know, sir, God bless you and congratulations for doing the right thing. You should be rewarded. And there's a part of me that regrets that you only shot her in the shoulder. Should I feel bad for saying that? This woman walks into the store. I don't know what else was in her purse, but she uses bear spray on Mr. Dennis and his employees, at which time Mr. Dennis pulls out his little friend, and he shoots the robber in the shoulder. Now, whoever this woman is, I don't know if she survived. This is a few days later. I guess she's still, I don't know if she's assumed room temperature or not. Apparently she survived. She's lucky, if you ask me. And hopefully this woman regrets the decision she made to go into this jewelry store and rob it with bear spray, and God only knows what else. Sister, you are lucky he hit you in the shoulder and not between the eyes, because had it been me and I had my wits about me, that's at least where I'd be aiming. Mr. Dennis was absolutely right to protect his property, his store, his employees, and himself. This is why guns are good. Guns are legitimate, shall I say. This is why law-abiding citizens who carry guns are good people. You'll never see a statistic like this, ladies and gentlemen, about how many crimes were stopped by somebody using a gun to stop a criminal. You never hear that statistic because there ain't one. But this kind of thing happens a lot. A law-abiding citizen, in this case, Mr. Jeff Dennis, who protected himself, his property, and his employees because he was a responsible gun owner who stopped a criminal from killing people. God bless this man. This is why guns are not good and they're not bad, but good people who carry them are doing us all a service. So God bless Jeff Dennis and other people like him who pack heat for instances just like this. Hey, if you'd been in that store, I think you'd probably be glad that Mr. Dennis was packing heat. I would be. Of course, if I'd been in there, he wouldn't have been the only one packing heat, if you get my drift. Do me a big favor, if you would. Give me a thumbs up on this video down below. Hit that thumbs up button. I would really appreciate it. If you have not yet subscribed to the Triple T channel, well, don't wait. Go ahead and do it right now. Everybody have a great day. I appreciate you all being here. I may be with you tomorrow. I'm not sure, but we'll definitely be back at least for Weird Wednesday. Everybody take care. This is Trailer Trash Tim. Over and out.